and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and it's time for some Game Week 11 content, because I wanted to build for you guys today the perfect team for Game Week 11 and beyond. So if you're wildcarding or just looking to use your transfers to build towards a certain team, this would be what I'd be going for. So guys, make sure you do drop a like on this video, it really helps out the channel, and make sure you are subscribing as well. Let's have a look at this team. So, for our Game Week 11 team, we are going to have a team value of 100.4 million. Hopefully, a lot of you guys are going to be in or around this budget, maybe even a little bit more. I imagine the FPL Mate viewership has got a little bit more team value than this. So, let me know what your team value is down in the comments. But let's start you off in goal with Johnston. So, yes, Johnston is actually the goalkeeper I'm going to go for right now. Previously, I would have maybe said an Areola or a Turner, but it's got to a point where because of the price rises to Areola and Turner, they're getting closer and closer in value to the 4.5 million goalkeepers anyway. The other goalkeeper I quite like is Raya at 4.8 million, but unfortunately for Raya, he has Newcastle now, and then in a couple of game weeks time, he plays against Brentford, or should I say he doesn't play against Brentford because he can't play against his parent club, because he is of course on loan at Arsenal, which I know is easy to forget. But we are going to go for Johnson in this team. Really nice fixtures coming up. He's been a very top goalkeeper when he's been playing. He should continue to play with Henderson injured. The fixtures are nice, as we say, and he's making saves. So overall, I feel like he could be a really nice goalkeeper to take forward, a little bit differential as well. And with other people aiming to go for, you know, some Crystal Palace defenders like Gahey or Anderson, Johnston is a nice cheap way of doing that. So I'd go for him as a goalkeeper right now if I wanted to get a new goalkeeper, for example. Into defense, and I have to admit to you guys, there's not a lot I love about defenders right now. There's very few defenders I'm actually very enthusiastic about. But we're going to start you off with Saliba at 5.2 million. And the reason I'm putting him in is not for this Newcastle fixture, which actually I'm not massively keen on, but it's not that bad as maybe some people make it out to be. I do think this will be a tight and cagey game. I think both teams will be pretty good defensively. They've been great defenses all season anyway, so we could see a 0-0 or a 1 goal either way. I can definitely see one of the two teams keeping a clean sheet. After that though, the fixtures are amazing for quite some time, like for a very long time. So I would want to be invested in that Arsenal defense, and Saliba is a nailed on way of doing that, really. Now of course you could go for Gabriel here as well, but I didn't feel fully comfortable putting Gabriel in this perfect team type team, because I know a lot of people will be worried about Gabriel's minutes moving forward. I do want to go on record and say I am not personally worried about Gabriel moving forward. I think he will come back into the team. I think he was just rested in an easy game against Sheffield United. Same situation with Ødegaard, and nobody would really say that Ødegaard is not going to play in future. We will probably accept that he will. But Gabriel, I think he will play in future. I think that there's been no system change for Arsenal, so that's not the reason why he was dropped. Kiwior is not going to be the first choice left centre-back for Arsenal. Like, he's not as good as Gabriel. We know this. So, yeah, I'm not personally worried, but Saliba does give you that little bit more security, doesn't he? Next up, Burn. So yeah, we're going to go for a cheap Newcastle defender. Again, not really loving the defenders in FPL right now in general. Trippier would be a big pick, of course, but hard to fit him in when we're going for a slightly more budget team, I guess. So we are going to go for Dan Burn. If you can afford Trippier, fantastic. But if you can't, hey, Burn is absolutely fine as well. And he's 2.3 million cheaper. So a lot cheaper there. Again, after this Arsenal game, which I do think will be cagey, the fixtures are a little bit better. We've got Bournemouth up next, and Chelsea and Manchester United. For a team like Newcastle, I do think that they can keep a clean sheet against pretty much anyone. So I would just be picking defenders from the best defenses right now, as long as you can get them for a fairly cheap price, and Burn definitely provides that. So I would prefer to go for him over some of the other defenders. And we're going to finish off this defense with Tsimikas, a defender who I am actually a little bit enthusiastic about. He's the one defender right now, aside from Trippier, that I actually look at and think, yeah, pretty good. I like him quite a lot. I guess Matty Cash would be the other one, but not really massively keen on moving him in now. I think he might have been a player to have picked a few weeks ago rather than now. The fixtures are going to start getting a little bit more difficult for Aston Villa very soon. So I wouldn't be looking at Cash as a long-term pick. Tsimikas as a longer-term pick I do like. We've got Luton up next. You never know when you're going to get a cheeky assist from a set piece or from open play, and a clean sheet is definitely on the cards here for Liverpool as well. So Tsimikas owners, definitely in a good position moving forward. I like this pick a lot. So would like to have him in our team. Speaking of Liverpool players, well, we're going to have Mo Salah in the midfield, aren't we? We have to have him up against Luton. This could be a big one for him. It really could. And although I think Salah is depending a lot on penalties for those mega scores, he is a part and a nailed-on part of a super strong Liverpool attack. And I think that's really important. You know, he's going to get 90 minutes most games for Liverpool, and he's going to be on penalties when they do come his way. And he is going to get the occasional goal from open play. His creativity is still looking very good as well, so he's going to have some assists in there as well, particularly against some of the weaker oppositions. Luton up next. Brentford's not such a bad fixture, and we got Fulham off a little while after that as well. And the fixtures, kind of medium to long term, pretty good for Liverpool in general, so I would be looking to pick a couple of Liverpool players in your team right now. We're going to move on to Son up next, and although the fixtures aren't amazing, well, the player is amazing, right? So his form has just been so good right now. I just don't see how you can leave him out at this point. Like previously, I toyed with the idea of removing Son. I think I am now convinced that I don't want to get rid of him, probably ever. Maybe not literally ever, but he's definitely a player that you want to hold long term at this point. Hold him through the difficult fixtures, even the tough fixtures against the likes of Chelsea and Man City. You still think if anyone's going to score in those games, it's going to be Son. He's in such good form, he will score against anyone. He's a big game player as well, so he will be able to attack and do well in those fixtures. Aston Villa as well, another top team that I think Son could actually thrive against. So I think Son is just a player you hold on to in your team. You don't look to sell him for anyone. I know some people looked at selling Son for the likes of Saka. Would not be doing that, but I would still have Saka in my team, so that's why he's going to be the next pick. So yeah, again, difficult fixture against Newcastle, and if you don't own Saka yet, I would probably wait one more game week before bringing him in. But there still is an option to bring him in this week as well. And if you're on a wild card right now, I would include Saka. I think he's a good player to include. I think the one difficulty about a wild card in Game Week 11 is those Arsenal and Newcastle players who you are going to want to have long term in your team. But maybe this is not the best week for either of them. So we have got Saka in this team regardless. We've got Burnley up next. And that's the big one. That's the one where we really think we're going to get the big FPL returns. We know Burnley do concede some chances down the wings, don't they? And Saka is going to be capitalising on that one. And hey, maybe we'll get Saka back on penalties. That would be nice as well. Next up, we've got Mitoma in the 6.5 million slot. And I think this slot is actually very optional. I don't think there's a right answer here. I do think Mitoma is a nice player for that Sheffield United game. So that's definitely a fixture we would be looking to target. We have got Burnley coming up as well. So that's also going to be nice. But it's just the Sheffield United at home game. I really like that. Mitoma is probably the most nailed-on attacker in the entirety of the Brighton attack, I guess. And yeah, he's got some decent fixtures coming up. Everton is a little bit tough. Nottingham Forest, not really sure what to think of them at the moment. They do seem to be slipping a little bit. So maybe that's going to be a decent fixture for Brighton as well. But I am going to include him here anyway. Now, there are two other options that I think are just as good as Mitoma. I don't think there's one right answer here. And those are Diaby. Obviously did very well last game week in game week 10 against Luton. And he's got some okay fixtures coming up as well. And the other player is Mbumo, who hasn't got as good fixtures, but he is on penalties. He's playing very well still. And he seems to be the star of the show at Brentford, doesn't he? So I don't think it's time to kind of write off Mbumo yet. I think he needs to be in the conversation. If not right now, maybe in a couple of game weeks. We do need to talk about Mbumo a little bit. So one of those three players in this 6.5 million slot, I think would work perfectly. Now, we've got one more midfield slot to pick from, and we're going to put Hee-Chan in here. Now, if you've got a little bit more money, you might be able to afford to go for a Diaby or an Mbumo in this slot, but we're going to put Hee-Chan in for now as our cheap midfielder, I guess. Sheffield United up next. That is a team we like to target. We've got Fulham coming up in a couple of weeks as well. We've got Spurs, which is not the worst fixture in the world, and Hee-Chan has just been in such fantastic form, and I feel like as the FPL community, we need to give him a little bit more love because he's been performing relatively consistently, and yet he's not talked about too much. So little shout out to Hee-Chan now. He's a very good budget pick, and I think I do slightly prefer him to the likes of Gordon, who's got some tough fixtures coming up and a lot of games coming up with kind of cup matches as well. It's a tough run for Newcastle, and I think Gordon could be rotated here and there, particularly when some players return from injury. But Hee-Chan for 5.4 million, what a bargain. What a budget pick. Absolutely love him. Play Sheffield United up next. Why not? Why not go for him? A little bit of a differential. And up front, we're going to have Erling Haaland, of course. I feel like a lot of Erling Haaland sellers might be regretting the decisions. I don't know. Let me know. Anyone who doesn't have Haaland right now, what are you thinking now after the 2 goals and the assist against Manchester United? Because, yeah, that was, it was a Halland special, wasn't it? He's back to his old self, and he's about to play Bournemouth, who are statistically the 2nd worst defence in the league. Only Sheffield United are worse. It's a home game as well. This is really, really dangerous, isn't it? And he's definitely a player who I would not be looking to remove at all going forward. He's a big game player as well, so I'm not really worried about Chelsea, Liverpool and Spurs. And after that, the fixtures are great again. So Halland is definitely a player we need to be thinking about how we're going to get him back into our team. If you don't have him right now, maybe you can kind of hold out through this fixture run if you feel comfortable with that one. But he's certainly a player who I would never be getting rid of at this point. There's no way I would sell Halland right now. If you have him right now, you keep him now. It's done. The decision has been made. I'm sure about that. And we're going to finish off the attack with Ollie Watkins. Yeah, Ollie Watkins, I don't think it's time to remove him. Obviously, knee-jerkers will be disappointed that he blanked against Luton, but he was very, very unfortunate not to score. He kind of had a double chance in that game where he really should have scored in that situation. Very, very unlucky. He created a fantastic chance for Zaniolo as well. I don't know how he missed that one. So Watkins super unlucky against Luton. That was a bit of a freak result, I think. But moving forward, decent fixtures for Aston Villa. I think he's going to be a very good pick indeed. But I don't want to say that he's the only option, because there are some other options that you could potentially go for as well. I think Darwin Nunez against Luton Town could be nice. But Darwin is a player who's always going to give you a little bit of a headache, because you never know when he's going to get randomly rotated. It will happen. It might even happen against Luton, and this whole discussion becomes pointless. There are a few other interesting forwards right now. I'm not sure I would be going for Julian Alvarez necessarily, but he's definitely an okay pick for this upcoming game week. But after that, I think I would prefer to have a Halland as my Manchester City attacker. And there are a couple other players. You know, we've got Evan Ferguson, looks like a nice differential. Nketiah could be a nice super short-term option from game week 12 when they play against Burnley. And there's, I guess, a couple other players as well. But Ollie Watkins, I think, is the safe choice to go for right now. I would say that he's still in form despite the blank against Luton, because he looked good in the Luton game as well. So he stays in the team. Let's bring up the bench very quickly. We've got Strakosha, 3.9 million goalkeeper. We've got Bulldog, 3.8 million defender, so you can go super cheap there and trim some budget nice and easy. We've got Osula there as the final player on the bench. He's never going to play really, but he's 4.3 million. And I know a lot of people are going for like an Archer on as their like final forward on their bench, but I don't really see the point, to be honest. You're never going to play Archer. Even when you do play Archer, he's only going to get you 2 points really. He's always going to be last on your bench, and actually he even though he hasn't been effective for quite some time, we've actually got to a point now that he was actually dropped. He's actually rotated against Arsenal. So I don't even think that Archer is necessarily nailed on anymore either. So to me, there's really no point in going for a 4.5 million forward when there's 4.3 available there. And the final player who I have saved till last to talk about is, of course, Harry Maguire. And I know a lot of people will be shouting at their screens, oh my God, I'm unsubscribing. I can't believe you put Harry Maguire in your team. Like, why would you consider Harry Maguire a great pick? He's 4.2 million and he plays for like a mid-table Manchester United team. Why would you want that? Wait a minute, that's exactly why you want that. A 4.2 million defender from a mid-table team is very good. He's a good bargain. Like, definitely. The other options are to pick like a Branthwaite from Everton. That's probably the only other option, to be honest, at that price bracket. And fair enough, you can go for that if you want. You can go for Charlie Taylor at 3.9 if you want and hope he ever scores another goal in his career. Believe me, I wouldn't say that's super likely. But honestly, I know Harry Maguire gets a lot of stick, but at 4.2 million, even if you think that Manchester United are very, very mid, very, very mediocre, that's fine. Like, that's what you want. When you're looking for these cheap defenders, you're not going to get a 4.2 million defender from an Arsenal or a Man City or a Liverpool or someone like that. It's just not going to happen. So Maguire is the second coming of Gusto, and there, I've said it. So this is the team. We're going to throw the captain's armband on Erling Haaland because he's back in business. He's back in form, and this is a fantastic fixture against a super weak Bournemouth defence. We're going to put the vice-captain, of course, on Salah because you definitely have to appreciate that he's got a good chance of doing the business there as well, but I am strongly leaning at this point towards a Halland captaincy over a Salah captaincy, so that's why the armband will be going there. Don't think it's the week to be taking any kind of risk in that scenario. So, yeah, there you go, guys. That's the team, 100.4 million, and I want to show you how it sets up for future game weeks as well, so let's do that. Okay, so I've loaded up this team in the Fantasy Football Hub My Team tool. Of course, if you want to check out this tool, you can do so absolutely for free using the link in the description. But I know a lot of you guys are already signed up, so make sure you do keep using it because it is super, super handy. And we can see how this team kind of lines up from week to week, as well as captaincy and potential transfers we can make in future weeks as well. So obviously, you've seen what this team looks like for Game Week 11. We've got a 97% team rating and 65.3 predicted points, so pretty decent there. But let's move onwards to future game weeks. There's one week in particular I want to have a look at. I mean, Game Week 12 is 1 week, I guess. You could consider playing Maguire because Man United play against Luton at home. But really, it's Game Week 13. In Game Week 13, we have got Tsimikas playing away against Man City, and we've got Maguire against Everton. So I do feel that that is a good opportunity to actually utilise a player like Maguire. Now, there are a couple of other defenders at a cheap price that we could go for if we look through, going over here. But it really is kind of Branthwaite and Taylor. These are the only two other picks that you could really consider. You could, like, if we go back to Game Week 11 here, you could, like, potentially swap out, like, a Bulldog for a Branthwaite if you want to have those two backup options. Or if you want to increase the budget on that defender there a little bit, go to 4.5. You could double up with Gahey on the Crystal Palace defense, but you got to think, when are you actually looking to play these players? And it's Game Week 13 is the big week, really, where we need the cover for Tsimikas. So that's why a player like Gahey, if you want to spend a little bit more money there, is going to be a good option in Game Week 13 when he plays against Luton Town. So that's definitely something to consider. There are some decent fixtures coming up for Crystal Palace, of course, which might be nice to rotate them a little bit. But outside of that, like, the cheap defenders aren't really doing it for me, so I would be happy to go for Maguire against Everton in that scenario. Looking forward a few game weeks as well back into it's Game Week 15 I want to have a look at. We've actually got Saka against Luton Town, and this is a week where Son plays against West Ham, Halland plays against Aston Villa. So you've got a decision here. Saka against Luton or Salah against Sheffield United. It's a good problem to have. But there are a few opportunities where you could genuinely consider the likes of Saka for a captain. You've got him home against Wolves in Game Week 14 there as well. In Game Week 13, we've got him against Brentford or Son against Aston Villa. Or maybe you fancy Halland against Liverpool. Different options there. But you can see that the fixtures for Aston Villa do start to get a little bit worse from kind of Game Week 13 onwards. Yes, we've got Bournemouth there, but we've also got Man City, Arsenal and Brentford. And that's the reason why I'm happy to keep Watkins for this run, because I think he could do fine against Spurs, and then you take him against Bournemouth as well. But after that, you know, even from Game Week 13, I would not really want a player like Matty Cash in my team. Same kind of thing with Diaby. Maybe you could hold him till 14, but after that, you probably want to remove him. And you do get players like Mbumo. We've got Misima, first of all, is good all the way till Game Week 16. So you hold Mbumo to 16 if you have him, or Misima to 16, and then Mbumo. Let me show you his fixtures, because it does start to get very good. Let's go to midfielders here. Mbumo, we've got West Ham this week, but then we've got Arsenal and Liverpool back-to-back. From 14, he has Luton, Brighton, Sheffield United and Villa, and that is a really nice run of fixtures. So maybe from Game Week 14, that is kind of when we would be looking to bring him back into our team. But overall, if we just look at all of the players with the highest predicted points, this team pretty much has it covered. Wilson is one exception to that, but Isak will be back in a couple of weeks, I imagine. Bruno Fernandes we're probably not going to go for. Yeah, it's Mbumo that's missing, and I think we can just wait a couple more weeks before getting him in. Maybe just one more week. I'm not sure, guys. You guys will have to let me know what you think about that one, but not quite ready for Mbumo personally, but I would definitely have him in my mind, and I think that's why the 6.5 million midfield slot is so important when building your team structure right now. But there we go. Just wanted to show off what this team looks like in future game weeks, as well as Game Week 11, to show you it's not just for one game week. FPL team, a wildcard team, is not just for Christmas, it's for every game week of the year, all 38 of them. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you did enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well. And I want to give a quick shout out to my Instagram and TikTok as well, because I'm doing short form content over there. So at FPL Mate on both Instagram and TikTok, if you want short form video content, then I am uploading on both those platforms and have been doing so for quite some time, for months, but never really shout it out. So go check that out if you want to. But aside from that, I will see you tomorrow for our tier list video and a stream. Till then, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.